Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ewell. I don't know why the hell I said coach. Well, I do know why I said coach, but I'm actually your host, Jesse Ewell, and I guess I could be your coach, possibly, depending on who's listening. And just so you know, I wanted to start over and cut that out. So I kept it rolling because sometimes keeping it real is keeping it rolling. And that's an important message, also one in itself. Now, today we're going to be talking about part 2, this habit of environment. And if you have not listened to part 1, just go back and listen again, and then this episode will probably make more sense. But how does your environment work or not work with your habits? So yesterday we took a dive into how our environment, specifically in our home, or just our environment in general, affects our experience, like how grocery stores, malls, these various other places will stimulate our environment to make purchases, capitalize on our senses, such as sight, smell, touch, taste, whatever it is. But we also talked about changing the home environment if we want to change our habits. And I want you to envision you at home grabbing a piece of tape and going through your home and marking down any type of clutter, any type of areas that get you to react with anger, possibly frustration, or anything else. Just trigger any type of behavior. I can think of things like dishes in the sink, clothes on the floor, toys left out, beds unmade, papers piled up, just any type of clutter. Just begin to mark it with masking tape. And the reason why is because you're going to be writing on this also. So write down on that piece of tape your feelings, your emotions that come up for you when you see this. And simply make a decision right then and there. How would you change your current environment? Maybe it's too much furniture. Maybe it's, too many clothes piled up, too many papers piled up. But whatever this is, how would you change your current environment, or how would you change that environment? What feelings do you experience in this environment where this, stuff everywhere? Clothes on the floor, toys on the floor. But what feelings do you want to experience by creating this change? So there's two sides of this. There's what feelings do I have when I see these things, and what feelings do I want to experience by creating this change? And begin by simply cleaning up your blocks in the environment. Now think about this. There's lots of energy blocks in our environment, specifically at home. Things that may keep us from doing something. But these blocks will begin to stimulate new emotions and feelings as we begin to get triggered in ways that actually support our environment and getting what we want. Now, clearing out any junk, blocked energy in our homes, stacks of papers, old clothes, furniture, pictures, all these things will begin to clear out and clean up our environment. And when we do this, we can begin to change our habits. But let's talk about something else. So that's cleaning up. What we cleaned up yesterday was actually the home environment. This is actually finishing up cleaning any of this. One of the biggest places that this happens is closets, garages. And now that you've pictured cleaning this up and you've stimulated, hey, this is what it would feel like, today I want to get into cleaning up your work environment. Now, believe it or not, before we get to work, we got to drive to work. And if you're like anyone else, your drive to work determines many times your day. Maybe it's the same busy road with the same busy lights and the same annoying ass drivers. So what is your drive to work? Is your drive work the same way every single day? Can you take 2 to 3 different routes to work? Have you considered that the way you think and feel going to work could change if you took a different way, a different route? Maybe if your ride to work was normally 10 minutes and you changed it to 15, 20, 25 minutes, you might stop rushing and being in a hurry and actually started to take your time. How different would your day be in that environment, or how different would your environment be by just changing the way that you go to work? Now, we're always so eager to find the quickest path. Sometimes we rob ourselves of the environment and the experience in it. I live literally 5 minutes from the ocean, and I could often take a beautiful route to work. It would be going down, literally going down the ocean between Dana Point and San Clemente. I could drive by this environment every single day, or I could drive on the freeway, or I could take another way that would be about 25 to 30 minutes. But the point is this: I can drive one way that's 10 minutes that creates the most chaos. I can drive another way that's 15 minutes that would give me a completely different environment and completely different experience. And there's another route I could take that would be out of the way about 30 to 35 minutes. Now, chances are I probably would not take that route, but I have the choice between two routes, and actually I could do multiple routes because there's some different turns I could take. But some days I do take the ocean. Some days I like going on the freeway, but both get me to the same place and offer me a completely different environment and experience. So if I really want to change how I react, how I show up, my habits in driving and how I get to work, I have to radically change that same environment. And so the ocean presents a calming effect with the water. The freeway causes a stressful effect sometimes. But if I start with just changing little things in the environment, this begins to change my habits and begins to change my stress levels and begins to change my routines. But think about this. What if you changed your work environment? What if you changed just where your desk was, where your papers were, where your window was in your office? You brought in some plants, you started playing some music, you changed some colors. You brought in a little paint and you began to put some pictures up and you began to stimulate a different experience at work. Where in your life do you need to begin to change your environment? Work is a huge place. Let's think about this also. If I want to change my current trajectory of results, and they've been happening or not happening at one gym, by me possibly changing up gyms, it may stimulate a different environment, which gives me a different result in that place. Even when I show up at home, saying something different to my wife and kids, smiling at them, even dancing, begins to change up my environment. Oftentimes, we go to church because we get used to it, but think about this. Changing the church I go to sometimes changes the environment, which means I have a different experience. Changing the meditation practices that I'm doing and where I'm doing them changes my experience. And if it's working for you, great. But if it's not working, if you continue to do what you've always done and you do it in the same environment, there's nothing new and different you're creating. So think about all these things that you could change in your environment. Today we're talking about driving to work, creating a new experience. We're talking about changing up your work environment. We're talking about changing up the gym you go to, changing up the style of fitness, changing up the diet. But all of this is impacted by the environment you're in when it's taking place. And consider this. If you want to change your habits, you will have to start with changing your environment, because it's the number one stimulant above everything else. And it will stimulate you right out of your habit if you're not careful. So whether it's going to work, whether it's being at work, whether it's your gym, whether it's your spouse, whatever it is, begin by changing up the environment first, then changing up the habit, because the triggers and the cues will be the same. The response in the area that you're in will be much different. So where in your life do you need to change up your environment, to trigger a new experience, to trigger a new habit, and to create a new routine that you can begin to do every single day? I want to thank you guys for being on here today. If you're looking to connect further with a group of like-minded people, join myself and so many others in the Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets group, where I'll be dropping daily habits to live to your full potential. If you want to be one of our next case studies and begin living this habit-based lifestyle, if you have questions, comments, requests, if you're getting value from this, drop me a review. I would love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me, Jesse at habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode.